Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing here, giving you my personal prediction for the junior middleweight unification clash between champions Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. And as always, this is just my take. Yours can be left down in the comments. Love to hear them all. So we got Charlo versus Castano here, and it has the Ring Magazine as well as the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles from Charlo and the WBO title from Castano all on the line here in a massive unification bout, which will be airing on Showtime, emanating from the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas, of course, on Saturday. This is such a good fight. Thankfully, a good fight that doesn't cost any more than whatever a Showtime subscription is running you these days. And considering the talent and what's at stake, it's worth the price regardless. Rare that we get these total unification bouts. Even more rare is when it's a genuine pick'em fight like Charlo versus Castano is, in my opinion. It's a really good fight, and of course, there are so many different sort of implications that come in. They've shown vulnerabilities in previous fights. They've shown excellence in other fights. It's a really good one. So without getting too giddy about this 154-pound clash, let's get into the breakdown. Starting with Charlo. For Charlo to win, he needs to look to land those hooks to the body. Castano carries a fairly high guard, and as a result will be open to the body. Charlo also throws very well to the body, so it makes sense to make it a target. This will also help in a couple other ways. Firstly, naturally, it will lower Castano's guard over time and leave the harder-hitting Charlo with a target upstairs that could help his case for winning the fight later on. Also, it will potentially set the trap of a left hook in particular. If he is throwing it to the body, suggesting it will go to the body every time, he can finally sneak it upstairs when he turns it a little bit and catch Castano off guard. I would also say the left hook will be key in general, which leads to that shot we were just talking about there, of course. It's one of the most important in his toolbox for Charlo. Both Charlo and Castano actually have solid left hooks. The difference, Charlo hits a little bit harder with his, and he tends to put a little more into that shot, especially when he's planted and allowing himself the chance to get full rotation, full power into it. And again, throwing that left hook to the body, either as a dummy shot or as a means to lowering Castano's guard, will serve Charlo well when he finally unleashes the left hook up top. Finally, don't allow him to push you back all the time. It's okay if you're going to back up sometimes, but when Castano really gets going, he's putting together punches and pressing forward. He's not looking to box, he's trying to bulldoze. Naturally, Charlo will want to make sure he's pushing Castano back and taking the fight away from him, at least most or some of the times. That can be with something as simple as a jab or a well-placed power shot that kind of gives Brian a reason for some pause. In any event, Jermell will benefit from making Castano take more steps back than he's happy to take. Switching to Castano. For Castano to win, stay busy, but make your work count. And there's a distinction between just staying busy for the sake of it and actually making it count. Castano likes to let his hands go, and that will work in this fight. When Charlo is pressed back, he tends to get defensive quickly, and that could allow Brian to stay active and pick up what could otherwise be close rounds. However, throwing shots for the sake of it doesn't benefit Brian. Make your shots count by pushing Charlo back and then resetting and allow yourself some time to put thought into your work. Again, pace yourself and let your momentum naturally build and let those rounds progress and kind of bank them a little bit as opposed to just forcing the action and giving your opponent more chances to land something big and meaningful on you. I would also say the lead left hook could do some damage. Personally, I wouldn't advise Castano to trade left hands with Charlo, as I suspect Jermell is the harder puncher of the two and has a decent left hook of his own. Personally, I wouldn't advise Castano to trade left hands with Charlo, as I suspect Jermell is the harder puncher of the two and has a decent left hook of his own, as I've mentioned. However, a spot where Castano could sneak in his own left hook is when Charlo is stepping back and being more defensive. Charlo doesn't employ a check left hook all that often, so stepping in with a longer left hook from a little bit more range as Charlo steps away could find a home for Castano. And finally for Castano, I'd say allow your combination punching to flow when inside. While Castano doesn't want to simply be busy for the sake of it, as I mentioned, that doesn't mean he should abandon his combination punching, which is one of his strengths. It just means he needs to set it up properly and let those moments naturally occur. Set them up with jabs, get Charlo out of position, use a few angles, push him back, get him on his heels. All things that Castano can do to find room for his combinations. Again, let them flow, but make sure you're using them with intelligence and not reckless abandon. Now, when it comes to my pick here, I really think Castano has a chance, especially if he gets going early and starts building momentum. However, for me personally, it's a difficult pick. Both are going to get hit. Both have their flaws. They're, in some ways not similar in terms of style, but similar in terms of the position they're in, where they're guys that can get hit. They do have what I would consider noticeable flaws. The difference is that I think Jermell has the ultimate bailout, which is, of course, he has the power edge in this fight. Now, it'll remain to be seen if Castano can withstand that power. However, it's very difficult to bet against that power when you both know, or when you know rather, that they're both going to be hit with clean shots because they both don't have impervious defenses. I don't think either man dominates the other, so it's just a matter of, finding that thing that will separate them. And I think it's that power. Possibly even down on the cards, I expect Charlo to land some solid left hooks during exchanges, and he will manage to hurt Castano in the process, possibly stopping him. However, I also think more than likely it probably just turns the tide in the fight and allows Charlo to win a close split decision or majority decision down the stretch. Charlo via close decision. The betting odds for this fight, somewhat reflective of my decision here, I suppose. You do have Charlo as a favorite at a minus 260, with Castano at a plus 190, so they're wider odds than maybe even I would suspect. I mean, I do give Castano a little more credit, I suppose, than a lot of people do. Either way, I do think it'll be a little more competitive than some are suggesting. In any event, though, I do agree with the odds for the most part, and that I do think Charlo is the correct favorite. You could lay money on either of those two, depending on the exact kind of bankroll you have, and it would sort of make sense. I mean, Charlo is, again, probably the favorite of the two fighters, probably going to get the most favor out of any kind of close decision calls, and is a talented fighter in his own right. So putting a heftier bet on that if you're kind of a strong believer in the Charlo twins makes total sense. At the same time, Castano basically at a 2-1 is not a bad look if you do think that he has the capacity to kind of turn this fight around in his favor and potentially get the win here. So decent betting odds there either way. The over-under actually is around 10.5 rounds, so basically, an expected decision, which I'm kind of going with as well. But you do, as you move down, if you're willing to buy some rounds, you get much better odds for the under pick if you do decide to do that. And you can see some really attractive odds depending on the sports book. So could be something to look into if you do suspect a stoppage going in either direction. My prediction record going into the weekend is 23-6-2 with 9 exact. So I'm getting them, but not exactly correct. But that's fine. Having a decent little run here. Let me know what you guys are doing. How you guys running, and what are your predictions for this fight? Any bets you're laying down, so on and so forth. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB, and you can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you there as well. Also, be sure to check out junboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.